Welcome back to JRL Golf Academy. In this episode, I interview Chris Mayson. Chris Mayson, who you ask, is probably one of the world's best golf coaches currently. He works with a ton of players on both the LPGA and PGA Tour. His mental prowess is absolutely top notch. He goes over a lot of the mental aspects of pre and post shot routines, and also how to evaluate each shot so that you don't go down the old rabbit hole of getting frustrated and emotionally out of the game. So go ahead, you're going to pick up a bunch of nuggets in this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it, and welcome back to the JRL Golf Academy.
So let's do a little different interview. We all know Chris works with a ton of LPGA and PGA Tour players, mini tour players, collegiate players, best juniors in the world. We all know that. We all he's the classiest of the classiest when it comes to this, and I honestly mean that. And not only because I owe you a drink.
It's been like 4 years now, by the way.
Dude, I don't like owing things. You know what I mean? So maybe I'll order you a drink and have it delivered to you. but let's do something a little different. Let's talk about sort of Chris. Not, we'll get into the golf maybe later or something like that. But if there's questions, but where did you come from? Let's start there.
Despite everyone thinking I've got an Australian accent now, I grew up in England. I've got an American twang to my English accent now. I actually grew up right next to a golf course called Woburn, which is very famous in Europe for hosting the old Women's British Open. It hosted European Masters, the British Masters. So I was very fortunate. I lived like half a mile away from that golf course. I wasn't a member. I was a member at the guys in Woburn Sands. But I was kind of privy to sort of some amazing golf right from a young age. And then I went to an all-boys boarding school. I didn't actually board. I was a day boy.
Okay.
But from the age of 8 to 18, I went to this all-boys school. So that really sort of formulated who I was. Like, we would get the bus at like 6:30 in the morning. We wouldn't get home until 7 p.m. at night, and we would do that 6 days a week. So we had to go to school on Saturdays too.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So it was a wild schedule, but like, of course, I didn't know any different because me and my buddies are just all doing the same thing. So
yeah. That makes sense.
It was highly. It was a very educational school. Obviously, being a private school. But it also was huge into sports. Like, it was massive into the English sports, rugby, field hockey, and cricket. But you could play other things like fives and squash and badminton and basketball. And so it was really an amazing school. And I really appreciate my dad being able to fit the bill for that. I know they sacrificed a lot for me to go there, but it's just been an incredible thing in terms of kind of developing my personality and my work ethic, and sort of really opened up the world because there were so many people from different areas of the world that would come to this boarding school. So you kind of it kind of realizes that the world's a big place and you want to go and see it. So
yeah, that's cool. You saw the whole world. I mean, literally as a youngster, seeing like your exposure to that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing, obviously, living in England is Europe's only 30-minute flight away. So you've got different cultures, different languages, different ways of doing things, different golf courses, like really just right there. So I do feel like the people in Europe sort of grow up faster, just probably because they have to. They're not as coddled as the Americans so much.
They're worldly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then the other thing there too is with the golf, it's a much better format in terms of developing a player, I would say. So you'd have you'd be a member of a club, which is much, much cheaper. I think for me, it was £150 for the entire year to play at this country club. So it was very inexpensive. And then all the juniors would get together and play. But then they would have a junior team within the club.
Okay.
And then they would play against other clubs around the area. And then if you were one of the better players in the club, you'd get put forth to your county. So mine was Bedfordshire County. So then you'd be on a county coaching team. So then then you'd play against other counties. And then if you were a really good player, then you'd get moved up to sort of the regional team, and then from there to the national team.
Oh.
So at every single level, there was some form of coaching as part of a team, and then you would play as a team. So it's much better than in America. They're just like, hey, they just thrown it at you, and it's like,
figure it out.
Hopefully you've got some money, right? Because you need money to be a member of a nice club.
Yeah.
You need a lot of money to take lessons. and then you need a lot of money to travel the country and play these big events. Like that's the only way you're ever going to get noticed, really. So luckily tours like yours are popping up now, which is making people like able to like not have to travel to Maine in order to get into an easy golf tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good.
So, who got you into golf? That's my question. How this ever even come about?
Yeah, my best friend, who I spend a lot of time with, his parents were really big into golf. So they took us round. I think it was like there was a 6-hole golf course right by us, which was perfect. Right, it's just a little par 3, 6 holes, and we played 6 holes. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So I got my dad into it, and me and my dad would take some lessons from the local golf course.
You got your dad into golf?
Yes, like it was the only.
Really?
Like, he started realizing it's like, if I want to spend any time with my son, like he's not playing rugby, obviously, and he's not playing cricket with me, but he could play some golf with me. Yeah. So we would take. Yeah.
That's a first. That's a first there, really.
Yeah. So we would take lessons together, and he would admit that he's not very good, but we just play together, and it actually worked out really well. But I was really into all the other sports, and there came points where I just couldn't keep playing rugby. I couldn't keep playing cricket. I couldn't keep playing hockey. So, it just kind of just got to the point where I was pretty selfish, and I was like, I don't want to rely. I want to rely on anybody else. So I just want to rely on myself. So I just kind of formed into the golf, and happened to be pretty good at it, luckily, and the rest is history, I suppose.
Well, let's talk a little bit more of history from that perspective. Oh, let me ask you this. Are you more like your mother or father? Characteristics, attitude, temperament, all that stuff.
It's funny. I'm probably, as the older I get, the more I morph into my dad.
Okay.
Like my dad's a real intellect. Like on paper, we couldn't be more different. I'm athletic. Yeah. He's more intellectual, and he's more into his music. But I get my drive and my work ethic from him. My mum's a teacher and sacrificed a lot for us to do what we do. So.
That's awesome.
I'd like to think I'm like my mum, but she's such an angel. I'm not like my mum.
It's like my kids. My daughter is my son looks like me, but my daughter's got my complete personality, and I'm like, it's gonna be tough for you, honey.
Yeah. Were you like your mum or dad?
Like my dad, which I wouldn't want to admit, but I'm like my dad, but I do have a lot of my mom's personality as well. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, I've got both pretty good, but my daughter is all me. I can say that.
I tell you, I didn't think I could love anything as much as my daughter. It's a different bond, daddy to daughter.
It really is. I mean, that's a true thing. All the fathers here that could you can hit the like button if you definitely feel that bond. There is a definite difference. I mean, my son and I he's my buddy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my daughter though is like, they curl up on you and all that stuff, and I can't have enough of it. So you moved up the ranks of junior golf.
Yeah.
And then you go to college.
Yes.
Let's talk about your college career.
Well, I would say I was pretty lucky with the timing of the way everything was. Like I entered a national tournament in England when I was like 15 and finished second. And all of a sudden my dad and I look at each other. I'm like, wow, I must be pretty good at this. Like I didn't realize. But then you start getting invited to all the national coaching. So from the age of 15, I was on the England junior team. And we had some really great players. Like Nick Doherty was on it. He was a European Tour champion. Zane Scotland. Tom Whitehouse, David Griffiths, Adam Frayne. But the year above me, before I got on it, was like Justin Rose, Luke Donald, Paul Casey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So at the time, everybody was looking to turn pro who was on my team. I was the only one who wanted to continue my education. So Luke Donald and Paul Casey were number 1 and 2 in the country NCAA at the time. So all these American coaches were coming over to England to see if they could find the next Luke Donald or Paul Casey. And I'm the only Muppet who wants to go. So, it was perfect.
Take me, guys, because they're not going to stay.
Yeah. So I got off with like 25 full rides to like big time programs, like Tennessee and Northwestern, Augusta, Mississippi, Duke. I mean, there were some really
Wow.
great spots in there. Yeah, and I really wanted to go to Stanford, but they were only offering me, I think, a half.
Okay.
And then apart from Stanford, like the only ones I'd really heard of were like Yale and Harvard and Princeton. So I wrote to all of them and said, "Hey, can I come
Can I
on
come?
trip?" And they're all like, "No, like your grades aren't anywhere near good enough."
Yeah, Chris, it's funny you say that because I know a lot of foreigners, and a friend of mine coaches at a D1 school, and she looks for a lot of those players, the international players, because a lot of exactly what you said, they only know a few schools.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
and if you're one of those that they know about, it's like,
yeah,
oh, well, you know, like you said, you're like, hey, these are the ones I wanted to go to because I know
yeah.
them.
It's like
It,
you go into England, right? You'd be like, "Well, I've heard of Oxford and Cambridge, but outside of that,
yeah,
I have no real
I had
idea."
no
Right?
clue.
And
Yeah,
you're not getting in an Oxford and Cambridge. So, yeah.
that's hilarious, dude.
So
But
then it kind of came to the point where I was just like, I don't know, like, how about that, right?
so where'd
And
you end up going? Tell people.
so it ended up between Northwestern and Purdue.
Okay.
And I love Northwestern, loved the coach there. Pat Goss was awesome. Luke Donald was there at the time too. And foolishly, like one of my main reasons for not going there, they wanted me to take a year out, which was the main reason. I didn't want to take a
Okay.
year out.
Red shirt.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then the second reason was like I didn't want to be the other English guy on Luke Donald's team.
Ah,
Now,
I gotcha. Fair
now
enough.
in hindsight, like I should have gone there, learned from Luke, like competed with Luke.
Yeah.
That's probably what I should have done. But I went to Purdue. The facilities there are out of this world. They've got two of their own golf courses on campus I could walk to from the dorm.
Whoa.
Both of them are Pete Dye. They've got indoor facilities. Like the team's got their own range. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. And then of course I went there and they showed me around the 80,000 seater football stadium and the basketball arena and the campus is incredible. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to go. So I absolutely loved it. Met my wife there, so it really worked out well for
Oh,
me.
I didn't know that. You met your
Yeah,
wife there.
yeah,
She was your
yeah.
college sweetheart, huh?
She was from Chicago. Yeah, we met my senior year, and it was awesome. Yeah, it was great.
She,
Luckily, though, she wanted to come out to LA to do the whole with her sorority sisters, to do the whole LA scene thing.
yeah.
And I needed a place where I could play professional golf. So I was like, hey, I'll go out to Southern California for sure. But then they went to LA for a day and got followed around by some greasy homeless guy. So they were like, I don't think LA's for me. So
I apologize for following her around that day.
It was
Okay?
you, wasn't it? So luckily for me, they're like, hey, let's go down to San Diego. So I was like, oh, for sure.
I tell
And
you
I
what,
tell you,
people. Yeah,
I
if
tell
you're
you
gonna
what,
move.
we drove in from Vegas, and I remember being in San Diego for about 24 hours, and I called my mom, and I was like, I'm not coming home. This place is amazing. And here I am.
Hey, San Diego got you.
Yeah, it did.
You're lucky, man. I love San Diego. Oh, you're in such a good spot. You're in Madeiras, right now?
Yeah.
That's where you coach out of.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were at some pretty good spots too, like La Costa and
Yes, yeah. You know, the way my teaching came around, I know you want to talk to about my college career, but the way my teaching came around is I was playing professional golf, mini tour golf, and I'll never forget, we're down in Florida, big tour championship for the
was it the U.S.
Yeah,
they owe me like $15,000 too.
they did. They
US
don't owe
Pro.
me anything because I didn't make any cuts.
U.S.
But,
Pro. That's
yes,
what it was. Yeah.
Do you remember that year they had Stuart Dean won that $1 million?
Yeah.
They had $1 million prize.
It was on ESPN, remember?
Yeah, crazy.
I was too scared. I qualified for that. And you remember that tour was whoever the I don't know what we call it, the commissioner of the tour or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember the first meeting of the very first tournament. They all sit us in and he was speaking and he goes, if anybody says anything bad about me or about my past, and I'm like, what are we getting ourselves into here? So I didn't go on that trip because I was like, I don't know if we're gonna come home because it was like in Bermuda or something like that, right? Yeah, and I was like, we're like on a chartered flight supposedly with this guy, and I was like, I don't know,
Wild
man.
times.
That was wild times, is right.
So the tour championship, if you remember, was at Tiburon, which is in Naples. Really good
Norman
golf course. we played the Greg Norman course, and oh my God, was it tight.
How wide?
God, was it tight. So I remember being in the practice round, right? And we're playing some game, and actually it was probably with Scotland. I'm sure it was with Scotland. Who you had on the other day. And I think I get to like the 9th hole, and I've run out of golf balls. Like I've gone through a dozen balls, right? I mean, I'm absolutely spraying everywhere, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm out of balls. Like I'm probably going to be best served just going back to the range and kind of working on some things, right? So I go back to the range. I'm on the range. And I see a couple of buddies, and they're like, "Hey, Chris, can you take a look at my swing?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "Hey, can you take a look at my putting?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I spent like 6 hours on the range that afternoon, didn't hit one ball, right? Because I'm helping everybody else out, right? We get to the first round the next day, and again, I'm like 9 over through 6, right? So I've missed the cut at this point. But all I could think about is like, oh, I hope Joe's playing good. I hope Dave's putting's nice. I hope, So I was like, my mind was focused on them playing well, right? Not on me playing well. And I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, like I'm in the wrong profession. Like I can't be thinking like this, right?
Yeah.
So I blew my back out like 6 weeks later. It was like meant to be, right? So
I remember that. I remember when you did get hurt. I do.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But anyway, I started some guy at the country club here in San Diego. He's like, hey, I could really do with someone like you. Like, I need someone to run my trading operations for kind of international, like in Asia and Europe. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like I'd make a lot of money at that, right?
What do I do? Where do I sign up?
So I start day trading.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I open up some accounts and had some accounts in Europe and was trying to get some in Asia. And I mean, I hated it from day one, but I literally started that. And it was like 2008. It was like 3 months before the financial crash.
Your fault.
I mean, the timing couldn't have been any worse. Like, he's promised I'm going to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm like negative 50 grand, like 4 months into it.
Sorry, guys.
God, it was awful. So, oh my God. I'll never forget this one day, right? So we're trying to get these deals through brokerages so we can get these IPOs for cheap, and then we kind of flip them for a profit, right? And this deal's looking pretty good, so I put in for like 20,000 of it.
Okay.
20,000 shares. Usually you'd only get like 500.
Yeah.
And as the week goes on, the deal gets worse and worse, and the manager says, hey, you need to pull out of this deal. And I'm like, I kind of need, this is a big brokerage for me. Like, I need to take this one down, even if I'm going to lose some money. So the deal kept getting worse and worse, and the guy calls me up a day before the deal, which never happens. And he's like, hey, good news. Like, I got you 10,000 of it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose so much money on this. So the deal comes out the next day. I'm down 30 grand on this one deal.
Oh, no.
Bearing in mind, I haven't made a penny to my name at this point, right?
I'm just hemorrhaging.
Oh my God. The deal's down 30 grand, right? They flip the deal, right? And I'm down 30. And I'm shitting myself. And I'm just coming in like an hour later, and I'm shitting myself. So the guy comes in, right? And he's foaming at the mouth. He grabs my throat, slams me up against the wall. He's like, you effing lost a brand new car today. I told you to get out the effing deal. And it's like spitting in my face from this close, right? And I'm like, this is the worst day of my life, right? This guy's going to kill me.
Was this the guy that offered you the job?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, but he told me to get out the deal because he knew it was going to be so bad, and I insisted on staying in it, and now I'm down 30 grand, which is going to take forever to come back, obviously. Oh my God. So anyway, that was awful. So anyway, while I'm trading, right?
Yeah.
I'd get in the office like 5 a.m. We get done at 1 p.m. when the markets close. In the afternoon, I would go to the local surf and turf driving range with my board shorts and flip flops on, and I would teach like I'm just like some random guy hanging out with my buddy, right? So I wouldn't have a video, didn't have TrackMan. I'm just teaching off my eye, and all the mini tour guys would come to me for lessons, right? And I'd do it for free.
Yeah.
But then the guys from the local country club started getting a bit better, and they were telling their buddies, and then I would just sit there, and then an hour every afternoon turned into like 6 hours a day, and I'm just sitting there with my board floats and flip flops, right?
You were the
So,
GG before GG.
I know. So,
You were the original G.
oh my God, original gangster, baby.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm doing like 25 to 30 hours a week, right, on the local driving range, just sitting on a plastic chair in my flip flops.
Hey, is that the place across from the racetrack there in Del Mar?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly
what's it called? It's called
Surf and Turf.
Surf and Turf. Yeah, you see it off the Fry Freeway when you're in San Diego, folks.
Exactly.
But they use it as a parking lot when they got the festival or the fair going on, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
That place is classy.
Yeah, it's got a
Just
nice
like
it's got a nice sort of like ocean breeze right to left, so it turns everybody's slice into a small fade. Like,
it's perfect.
As a teacher, you're a genius.
Yeah. I tell you what, if I had to go teach, that's where I'd be teaching.
So funny. So anyway, I'm doing 25 hours a week, right? And then at the time, I got this new client who's coming in from Sans Luce, which is a country club, and all of his buddies.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
All of his buddies are getting better.
Yeah.
And he goes into. I said to him specifically, I'm like, Mike, you got to just grab a bucket of balls and just come on out, and I'll meet you out here, right?
Yeah.
He goes into the pro shop and he's like, hey, I've got a lesson with Chris Mayson. And they're like,
who?
Chris Mayson doesn't teach here. And he's like, no, I got a 3 o'clock lesson with Chris Mayson.
Oh.
So the general manager comes out. He goes, are you Chris Mayson? I said, yeah. He says, you can't teach here. I said, but I'm doing more lessons than your guys. Is there any way I can stay? Right? I'll pay
your
whatever
rent.
you need me to pay.
Yeah.
Right? And these guys are buying balls because I'm here.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, you can't do it. So I was just utterly devastated because I just loved the coaching so much.
Right.
Just loved it. I'm charging like $40 an hour at the time. Like most
you're having a good time.
Most of them I'm doing for free, but but just loving it. So my wedding was the next week. I was just so distraught, and amazingly, like the day before my wedding day, I get a call from a guy at La Costa where I used to play, and he said, hey, I heard you're doing some lessons. Do you want to come up and start the La Costa Golf Academy with me?
Really?
And then after that, I was like off to the races.
Because that's where I ran into you when I was working with a player on the LPGA. I ran into you one day when the LPGA was playing La Costa. I was down there working with her.
Yeah.
What do you? I hadn't seen you in a while. I was like, "What are you doing, dude?" And you're like, "Dude, this is where I teach." I was like, "No way."
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh man. So you get into teaching. I mean, like all of us. I mean, I got into teaching, and I wish I could give those people their money back when I first started, because I was teaching them whatever the hell I was working on, and I think most of us were. But who were your early influencers that maybe at the beginning part of your teaching, kind of that's what you were trying to teach because that's what you were doing, or as a player? What were your early influences as a coach?
It's a great question. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like you and I were always in search for perfection.
Yes, you can put those words absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So I went down like anything I could get my hands on. Right.
Yeah.
At the early times, it was Ledbetter and McLean and Flick. It was Tosky.
Yeah.
It was John Jacobs. But then the advent of YouTube just made it so much easier. I would spend hours on YouTube, and then they had the BizHub camera come in, and you could just watch tigers swing in slow motion over and over.
Yeah.
Right, and I would start reading books on mental game and improvement and stuff like that. So that anything that really interests me, but I would just get way down those roads. And I was fortunate at the time. Like I started my teaching career and knew I wanted to be teaching really good players. So I had a lot of the guys on the mini tours would come to me immediately. The guys I was friends with, and they started to play pretty good. I would usually teach them for free just because I wanted to teach them.
Yeah.
And then I had some success with those guys, and then some really good juniors started to come. But I was very, very lucky in sort of those late 2000s when I was getting going. Jim Flick was able to, he was teaching at La Costa next to me. They were redoing the Kingdom at TaylorMade at the time. It took about a year. So Jim came and was teaching next to me. And
Wow.
He was always so complimentary of my teaching and the way I taught and the way I saw the swing. And then obviously I got to watch him teach his good players and some of the tour players that were there through. And yeah, he was really a good influence on me. And then I kind of got hooked up with IK Kim probably 11 years ago now. And she was very much into really good friends with James Siekman and Greg Rose.
Okay.
So they probably don't know it, but they've been a huge influence on my career, just in terms of the way they see the swing, and James's process of teaching, I think, is incredible. So I've got a lot of my stuff from them, obviously.
Yeah.
But like everybody, and I was explaining to someone the other day, like you'd go down these avenues, like, you know, Joe Mayo comes on YouTube and I'm listening to all of his stuff. And then Sean Foley's having a ton of success. And, you know, Como's come out recently, and you start going down these avenues, and you're like, Stack and Tilt even, right? And you start going down these avenues and you're like, man, well, those guys are having a lot of success, so they must be right. So
Right.
you go down that road, and you realize eventually when you get there, you're like, well, like, I like a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to keep it to myself, and then I'm going to ditch the rest of it.
Yeah.
So the better at coaching you become, you still are an avid learner, but you pull less stuff out, I think.
Yeah.
And you find your own things of what work and what don't.
Yes.
And you realize at the end of the day, especially now at this point, I've worked with so many tour players, that there's some things as a coach that you can't control. Like you think you're having a huge influence on a tour player, and that's why they're playing well, and maybe that's right, but there's so many other factors in their life that had to go well in order for them to also be successful.
The spokes on a wheel.
Absolutely, yeah. And as a coach, like, you want to feel like you're the entire wheel, but you're really a small part. And you know, you get the right player at the right time, and they do really well, and it makes you look really good as a coach.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of the times as a coach, the genius is just not messing that person up as they're on their trajectory.
I can relate so much to what you're saying there about, you know, there's information here, right? You know, we're always looking at information, and we're searching for that information as coaches. But then there's knowledge. And the knowledge is really just putting the information and connecting them.
Yes.
And that's what you have, you know, after you've taught as long as you have, you know, you've got the knowledge now, you've connected those dots. And I'm starting to realize that now as a coach as well, you know. Like, you can keep looking for the information, but you got to be able to apply it at some point, right?
Yeah, you do.
Thanks for watching, everybody, the JRL Golf Academy. Please make sure to link and comment down below. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that little bell for notifications. And we look forward to seeing you on the next JRL Golf Academy.